Another week and another edition of the New York Sports Rapid Rundown, where we discuss the hottest three topics in these New York sports streets. Joining me this week is an Emmy Award-winning TV host who's one of the hardest working people in the game. You see him with Fanatic Sportsbook, NBC Sports, The Ringer Wrestling Show, and co-hosting the Say Less podcast. Kazeem Famuyide joins me now.
Dex, what's going on, brother? It's been a long time coming.
It has been a long time coming, man.
Yeah.
I've been trying to get you into the hot seat here.
Oh,
I call it the hot seat.
Don't feel too hot, man. I mean, it's snowing outside. I think we're in good shape today.
I think we are, man. It's good to have you here. Been a fan of your work for a long time, so it's good we finally got to connect here on the Rapid Rundown. Welcome to the show.
Same.
Now, Kaz,
yes,
we got some things to get into this week. We got the red-hot New York Rangers. They're getting ready to play an outdoor game, and I want to know how you feel about outdoor hockey games. Catchers and pitchers reporting for the Mets and Yankees this week. First, it's NBA All-Star break this weekend, and we got to talk about the New York Knickerbockers. Kaz, the Knicks, they went to the All-Star break losers of 4 in a row. On Wednesday in Orlando, they were without 6 of their top 8 players. Dante DiVincenzo, Bogan Bogdanovic, they didn't play against the Magic. They joined, as the folks know, the already out Julius Randle, Isaiah Hartenstein, OG Anunoby, and Mitchell Robinson. So look, Kaz, the injuries, they're piling up for the Knickerbockers. What's your level of concern with all these injuries? And did you think the break came at a good time for the Knicks?
I guess that's a two-part answer, right? One, I'm mildly concerned, right? I'm mildly concerned for one reason. One reason is, as long as the New York Knicks have been, decent for the past several years, the best thing that they had going for them was health, right? And I don't think a lot of people put that into consideration. Everyone always had to say something about Julius Randle, what he is, what he isn't. We should trade him for this, we should trade him for that. You see him not in the lineup right now, and you look how that team looks like. And on top of that, one thing nobody ever gave Julius Randle credit for, I believe, was his ability to stay healthy and stay sturdy. So once he went down against that Heat game, that's why I was like, oh my gosh, we're going to really see what this Knicks team is made of without Julius Randle. And I think that's why a lot of us got so emotional and so happy after that Indiana Pacers win when they were down so many players. But then you lose Anunoby, and then you lose Hartenstein, and then you lose DiVincenzo, and then you lose, are you already down Mitchell Robinson? The New York Knicks obviously could have had a better time for this to happen, though, right? Like, if you're looking on the bright side, you never want to go into the late spring having to deal with injuries. Nobody ever wants to really deal with injuries, but if there's any time to do it, it's right before the All-Star break when you get some time to rest, recover, recalibrate, and work in some of those new players that you traded for in the trade deadline, including Alec Burks and Bojan Bogdanovic. So, it's a two-part answer, man. I'm mildly concerned because we haven't really seen what this Knicks team looks like without Julius Randle, and their biggest benefit as a team has been their chemistry, the way they play together. Everyone always talks about they don't have a superstar, they don't have this, that, and the third. But what they did have for a long time was this fist, right? Like, all them together, they could beat anybody. They could take on anybody in the Eastern Conference. So my mild concern comes from their ability to recalibrate that chemistry once everybody gets back on the good foot. But if there's any time for it to happen, it's right now, which is perfect.
It was now, which is perfect, yes. And I agree with you, Kaz, on that, because you do not want these injuries late in the season as you're trying to play your best basketball and getting ready for the playoffs. Now, look, we can admit this. The team is walking wounded right now. Coming out of the break, they play Philadelphia next Thursday. If they can get healthy, which you were just talking about before, where do you think the Knicks can finish in the Eastern Conference standings at the end of the season?
The Eastern Conference standings, I think they are still good enough to be a top 4 team in the East, right? Like, obviously, when they're all healthy, they can play with anybody. We've seen it. We've seen them roll past a healthy 76ers team. We've seen them roll past a healthy Milwaukee Bucks team. The only team throughout the Eastern Conference that they haven't had their number against is, one, the Orlando Magic, but they haven't been healthy, and the Boston Celtics, who have been running through everybody throughout the NBA so far. So as far as standings are concerned, I hope they can hold on to one of those top 4 seeds and hold off the Philadelphia 76ers as they get healthy and get more players. But as far as the playoffs are concerned, at full strength, man, even before they acquired Bojan Bogdanovic and Alec Burks, I had this team going to the Eastern Conference Finals, right? Like, this was a squad who I believed looked extremely well put together last year, right? And I think the world is starting to really understand what type of ceiling raiser Jalen Brunson is. He's won on every single level of basketball. And even as a member of the Dallas Mavericks, when he wasn't necessarily the guy getting all the headlines, he helped lead that team to its furthest playoff positioning since the Dirk years, right? So now that it is absolutely no questions who team it is when it comes to the New York Knicks, I think Jalen Brunson, a healthy Julius Randle, OG Anunoby, who, when we seen him on this New York Knicks team, not only did he help raise the ceiling for the New York Knicks, but you can see what he affects on other teams' best players, the Anthony Edwards of the world, the Jason Tatums, the guys that you need to help shut down when it comes to playoff basketball. If those guys get healthy, I think the Eastern Conference Finals is not just their ceiling, but I think it's their floor. I think if they're healthy enough, they could beat anybody in the league. And why not? Why not have this year be the year if they're healthy, if they got the veteran coaching, they have the depth, they have the shooting, they have the defense, they have the guys you can give the ball to in crunch time that will come through for you in the clutch. Show me one thing that a healthy version of this Knicks team does not have around the NBA. And if they got it all going and the chips fall the way they're supposed to fall, why can't this team represent the East in the NBA Finals?
I don't think it's crazy. You know what people are going to push back with you on. One of the things
Push back.
They're going to push back. They're going to push back. You know this is going to happen. One of the things people are going to say come playoff time. Let's say they're healthy, Kaz.
Yeah.
One of the things come playoff times that you're going to hear is, okay, can you trust Julius Randle in the big spot? That's going to because of his past playoff performances. I don't want to get too far off topic in this, but are you concerned about that? It's a two-part question again. I'm giving you another one. Are you concerned about that with Julius Randle? And is it jumping out the window, for lack of a better term, to say the Knicks could go to the finals? Because some people are saying that. I know you've seen it. Some people are saying it.
I've been saying it since probably early November that this Knicks team looks finals ready. And this is before they traded R.J. Barrett and Quickly and all these guys, just because I had so much belief in Brunson. The Brunson and DiVincenzo backcourt has been a revelation, right? Isaiah Hartenstein coming up for Mitchell Robinson playing center has been a revelation. As far as Julius Randle is concerned, I think what a lot of people don't understand is that first playoff series against the Atlanta Hawks, he was let's backtrack. That first playoff series before the Atlanta Hawks, he was a mid-range dynamo. That pandemic season in the half-empty Madison Square Garden, he was hitting some of the craziest mid-range shots throughout the entire season. I was calling him Corner Larry Bird every time I was on TV because the dude didn't miss. And then when he got to Atlanta, when he got to this playoff series, you know, the shot sort of went away from him. And then obviously the pressure of New York will get to anybody, right? And we've seen him sort of do some things that would sort of be like, oh, I don't know if I can trust this guy in a big pressure time situation. Maybe he might crack under the pressure. What I've seen from Julius Randle this year, though, is that he's been playing downhill. I think somebody got into his ear and was like, listen, 95% of the time in the NBA, you are the biggest, strongest dude on the court. Get to your left hand and finish in the paint. And that's what he's been doing all year long. At the beginning of the season, obviously, he's coming off an injury, still working his way back into that. But once he got healthy, he was like a bowling ball just going downhill, and knowing that you're going to get maybe the first or second best defender guarding him on most of these situations, I have no doubt that Julius Randle wants to prove those people like me and the others that I've been talking about for the past several years that say, I don't know if I could trust this guy in the playoffs in a situation. I think he is more equipped than ever to take a team, not having to be the leader, not having to be the number one option on any of these things, to just produce, right? Like, nobody's asking you to go out there and drop 50 and have Jordan-like games in playoff games, but just produce. Just stay at a level that you have throughout the regular season, and if that production is good enough for this Knicks team, they can go as far as anybody out there.
I like it. I like the confidence. Knicks fans, you got to like the confidence from Kaz there. You have to. You absolutely have to. Okay. New York Rangers. We're going to talk hockey. I actually do not think on this show we have talked hockey yet.
Oh, let's talk that. Let's do that hockey.
First time, we're going to talk some hockey on the Rapid Rundown. The Rangers, they're rolling right now, Kaz. 6 straight win following Thursday's home victory over the Canadiens. 6 in a row for them now. Blue Shirts, they now have an 8-point lead in the Metro Division over Carolina. Are we starting to see the Rangers team that we saw in the beginning of this season? And do you view them as Stanley Cup contenders for sure?
Yeah, I think we're starting to see the Rangers team that we saw in the beginning of the season, but not just that, a Rangers team that we probably saw 2 seasons ago, right? Between Artemi Panarin, Chris Kreider, doing the 2 top goal scorers for that team. They've been absolutely dynamite all year long. But I think what's really put them over the top, which I think sort of hindered them 2 playoff seasons ago, was being able to have, the goalkeeper situation be one of the best in the league. Of course, you got Igor Shesterkin already, who's been an absolute beast. But, gosh.
Jonathan Quick.
Jonathan Quick.
Because I knew you were talking about
Jonathan Quick has been an absolute revelation for this team this year, right? Like, obviously, Igor Shesterkin is a beast for the New York Rangers. Probably still one of the best goalkeepers on the planet. But when you got a guy in his mid-30s who's finding another stride in his career, especially for the Blue Shirts right now, I think defensively, you have to look at the Blue Shirts as a team that can hang with anybody in the NHL. They're so deep. I'm a big fan of Keandre Miller, obviously. Kreider has always been a clutch goal scorer for the New York Rangers. But I think the goalkeeping, being able to, obviously, I think they can still stick with Shesterkin after the break and, go into him and trusting him, especially with his veteran leadership. But, man, Quick has been a dynamo for them this year. So, I don't know, man. I remember watching this team 2 seasons ago, going to the Garden and seeing all these incredible playoff games heading up into the Eastern Conference Finals and thinking this was going to be the year. But obviously, goalkeeping was a big benefactor to why they didn't, finish the story in the Stanley Cup Finals. But I think this year might be a little bit of a different story when it comes to the New York Rangers.
Going to be interesting to see with the Rangers, what they do, if they make any moves at the deadline. That is coming up on March 8th. We will see what happens there. Now, the Blue Shirts, they're going to go for 7 in a row on Sunday when they play the Islanders, Kaz, in the Stadium Series at MetLife. It's an outdoor game with a forecast on Sunday. Get this, folks, calls for a high of 39 degrees with max wind gusts of 31 miles per hour. No. Kaz, got to ask you this. If you had free tickets to go see the Stadium Series game, would you sit out in that cold weather and watch the Rangers down at the Islanders? Is there enough clothing for you to bundle up for this and get ready? For me, it's a no. I don't do these outdoor games below 50 degrees. Not my thing. What are you doing?
Dex, I might surprise you with this answer, all right? I'm African. I should be a warm weather person, but I'm a Pisces, bro. My birthday's this week. I love me some cold weather activities. So, listen, if you've ever been to a hockey game, if you've ever been to a New York Rangers game, it is one of the most lit experiences you can go to. I promise you. You don't need to know nothing about the team, but as long as you hear the, they're out there in it, you in. It's like a rock concert out of nowhere. But MetLife Stadium, one of the biggest stadiums in the country capacity-wise, the ability to fill up 50,000 people, the way the Rangers and Islanders have both been playing over the past few seasons, I think it's going to be one of those unique atmospheres that you just want to be there to say, I saw that happen. So, man, it's going to be incredible. The Stadium Series for the NHL has always been a unique experience because, at the end of the day, a hockey is the game of the elements, right? It's ice. It's being outside. It's having to deal with the cold, dealing with the ice and skating and all that type of stuff. And anytime you can play a pro sport and give these great athletes from all around the world an opportunity to play within the elements, it's always exciting for me to watch. So I'll keep it 100 with you. I would go. As a matter of fact, I might even pay tickets to go watch it, right? I don't even need the free ones. I don't even need the free ones. I appreciate it. I appreciate the hospitality if you would give me some. Trust me. But I would go, man. I love being able to see unique sports landscapes, especially when it's not something that you're used to. So I'll definitely watch.
I would tell the people, it is something really dope to go and see.
For sure.
Stadium Series is fantastic to go and see it. I've covered one down in Philly, Pittsburgh, and the Flyers. It was really good. But
don't get me wrong. I'm gonna need me a hot toddy. I'm gonna need some warm clothes. I'm gonna need all that. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I just will still enjoy it.
I have to say, Kaz said that I would be shocked by the answer. I was. being a Caribbean brother, I was like, no, I'm not sitting out in the cold. We're used to these warm climates. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. I really have to bundle up. That's all I'm saying.
Hey, I'm in New York at the end of the day, man. The cold weather's cold weather, bro.
We've dealt with worse. Even though we're from warm places, we've dealt with it. We've dealt with worse. All right, Stadium Series should be a fun one for the hockey fans. Moving on to baseball, pitchers and catchers, they reported to spring training this week as the Mets and Yankees are set to open camp with position players reporting next week for both teams. So, Kaz, I wanted to get your thoughts on the offseason for both teams and how you think both of these teams are going to fare in 2024. Let's start with the Yankees. They made the big splashy move trading for Juan Soto. What are your expectations for the Bronx Bombers in 2024?
Well, I think off rip, the biggest acquisition they got, even counting Juan Soto, is a healthy Aaron Judge, right? Like, if Aaron Judge is back and playing, the majority of the 162 games for the New York Yankees, then they are a team to be dealt with. And now you add Juan Soto into the mix, who's won a World Series already, who's been an absolute juggernaut for the San Diego Padres and the Washington Nationals in his past. But in the back of your head, you're making that swing for him knowing that this might be a one-year deal. So not only are you playing for the expectations of being a Yankee and knowing that it's World Series or bust every year, they're kind of like the Dallas Cowboys of baseball. Like, if they don't win a World Series, it's a failure of a season. But you're also playing to see if you could lock in Juan Soto for a long-term deal. Now, on top of that, you got Garrett Cole coming back, the reigning Cy Young Award winner. You want to see if DJ LeMahieu could have another great season. Giancarlo Stanton, you never really know what you're going to get with him. Maybe he's going to be boom or bust this year. But the Yankees are the Yankees. Every single year, they have sort of these unreasonable expectations that, not even the Astros, who have probably been the winningest franchise in baseball for the past decade, have against them, just simply because they got the pinstripes on. So I think with Soto, with the bolstered sort of bullpen as well, and a healthy Aaron Judge, obviously it's always going to be aiming for the World Series championship. But who knows, man? That whole Juan Soto contract situation is going to be a storyline throughout the entire year, and especially if he comes out balling. I mean, they're going to want to shore that up before the end of the season, because he seems like somebody who, I think with a lot of these young players, I don't think they necessarily get the lure of being a Bronx Bomber and having the pinstripes and all that type of stuff. They're trying to get paid at the end of the day, right? Trying to get that money. Right. So yes, the history is nice, wearing the pinstripes is nice, all that too. I love the addition of Marcus Stroman as well. But on top of that, man, they gotta lock him up long term, especially if he continues the sort of production that he's had elsewhere.
Yeah, we'll see. That is going to be a major storyline for the Yankees. What will happen with Juan Soto moving forward? Now, the Mets, they had a pretty quiet offseason. No big moves or signings made. Feels like a transition year, Kaz, for the Amazing. So I got to ask you this. How do you think they're going to be able to compete in the National League this season?
Well, they have the benefit of not having all those expectations from last year, right? Obviously, Cohen went and paid a whole lot of money for some plays last year and had a bunch of receipts. Like, I need all that back. Come on, get it back. So, but the good thing is, right, I think one thing we've learned about Major League Baseball over the past decade is that the teams that spend the most money don't necessarily guarantee you winning seasons. So maybe you give the spotlight to the Yankees for a little bit, and the Mets, which are building up Citi Field and making it a great attraction, a great place to come watch baseball games. One thing I think a lot of teams don't really take into account is I think fans like to grow with teams, right? So being able to, you see those prospects grow, see some of these players, and also you still got the polar bear at the end of the day, right? Like, that's still a guy that's going to keep you in contention as long as they possibly can. So it's going to be really interesting to see how the Mets fare this year. I don't necessarily think they're going to be NL East contenders, but we've said that about a lot of teams over the past several seasons that have surprised over the years as well. So, I mean, you could just look at, the World Series last year and, the wild card playoffs, and seeing how a team could have a great run in the early fall and take it all the way to October. So I'm not going to be one of those people that's going to say just because the Mets didn't spend like $500 million in salary this year that they're not going to be competitive, because at the end of the day, the game isn't won with checkbooks, right? The game is won, on the field, batting, defense, all that type of stuff. And on top of that, this Mets team is very much, this Mets franchise, however, is very much a franchise that wants to grow with these players. They tried the big swings last year. We saw how that worked out. I think expectations have sort of been recalibrated now for the Mets. So now I think they'll be able to have fun baseball and have a team that is gutsy and wins with moxie, and not just getting the most expensive player and getting a guy who could win MVP or getting a guy who could probably be a Cy Young Award winner. Like, a lot of times it's not how baseball games are won anyway. So I'm not going to say that this is going to be a down year for the Mets like a lot of people are talking about, because I know they won 100 and something games the year before last. But you just never know how things could shake out once the season starts. So I think we should be a little bit patient with the guys in the blue and orange.
Yeah, you wonder how competitive they can be. Can they be a team? You kind of mentioned like the Diamondbacks making a run to the World Series last year. You never know. You get around 83, 85 wins, get in at that third wild card spot. You make a run.
Yeah, winning. Just get in, man. Just get in right now. And things could happen, bro. You never know.
We'll see. Maybe the Mets are able to get in. We will see what happens there. Okay, Kaz, it is Black History Month. I've been talking with my guests this month about a variety of topics that are personal to them around Black history. So my question to you, as a host, as a content creator, is what inspires you to create Black history?
Oh man, that's a heavy question.
Hey, we try to go for the heavy and deep questions here. We try.
Yeah, but I think Black history to me, especially working in the media industry that we both were working and content creating, is knowing that I knew when I was growing up, the people that I looked up to were folks that looked like me, that sounded like me, that talked about things that I enjoyed in the industry that I wanted to be in. So like I used to look up to guys like Stuart Scott, look up to guys like Michael Wilbon, guys that I thought were just people that were in the industry that, helped take sports journalism to a level that I didn't think was really possible. And I think now we see so much opportunity as far as being able to create your own platforms and be able to go out there and, make your own sort of way without having to necessarily rely on big media conglomerates and entities to put somebody on. A lot of times, a lot of the gatekeeping that happened when it came to people in this industry that wanted to, watch TV and see someone talk about sports that looks like them, was that opportunity. And I think now, with just being able to fire up a camera and turn on a microphone and start a podcast feed, like you just never know what's going to be that thing that sort of gets you that opportunity to make your own sort of Black history. In addition to that, man, I've just, everything that I've always created, everything I've always tried to be a part of, I've always wanted to be authentic, right? Like the last thing I ever wanted to do was to put something out there, watch it back a year or two and be like, that's not me.
Right.
That's not something I'd want to do. That's not something that I'd want people to follow, right? Because I think, we've both done this for a long time. After a while, I said it's a heavy question because, how many times have you had conversations with people that are younger than you that say like, man, I want to do what you do. I've always followed your career and wanted to sort of be in the same space as you have. And the last thing you want to be able to do is say, well, you got to change everything about yourself. You can't do it.
You know what? I don't mean to cut off what you're saying, but I was so glad you brought that up because I've had that situation where younger people have asked me exactly that.
Yeah.
And I don't know when it happened for you or when you came to that realization of wanting to be your true and authentic self, because that hasn't been the case for always people who look like us that might be in this position.
Right.
But I made that decision quite some time ago, and that's something I try to pass on to the younger people that want to do this, which what Kaz said, which is be your true and authentic self, because anything but that, it isn't worth it, right?
That's a fact, man.
And you know what? The people, like you said, the younger people who look like us that are watching us here, that are looking for that authentic representation, whatever that is to them, if you're not, they're going to know it.
Yeah.
They're going to know it real quick.
Yeah.
So I don't mean to cut off your point, but I just thought it was such a good thing that you brought up about that in terms of your experience being a Black man in this space, and I think that's really important to talk about.
Of course, man. Yeah. The BS detector is high on
Very high.
contributors right now, and consumers. And on top of that, man, like my name, Kazeem Famuyide. Like a lot of people going into this industry, if I had a dial for every person who told me I needed a stage name or a pen name or to call myself something different because it'd be hard to pronunciate, I'm like, nah, man, I'm going with my name, and if you'll learn to do it, and if it takes me a little bit longer to get there, then so be it. But the last thing I want to do, I got daughters now, you know what I mean? Like the last thing I want to do is be able to create something that they'll see one day and not recognize that person that they see, whether it's through content, whether it's through podcasts, TV, anything else that I do. You want to be able to do it in a way that you're proud of. So I think when it comes to I guess, making Black history or at least contributing to it in any way, shape, or form, the best thing you could possibly do is do it in a way that's true and authentic to yourself. And that's the way I've always seen it.
Yeah, I could not agree with you more. Well, it being Black History Month, I was absolutely proud to have you here on the New York Sports Rapid Rundown. You got to come back, man. We got to have you back.
Man, I'm right down the street. I'm always around here, so whenever y'all need me, I'll pull up, bro. I love the setup.
Which is crazy. We have to let the people know, Kazeem and I have been following each other for quite some time, and this was our first meeting.
Yes, it's a meeting for the first time.
Interaction.
My gosh.
Like in-person interaction that we've had. It was a pleasure to have you, man.
Hey.
Everybody. Follow. I gotta give you.
Come on,
give
man.
you some love.
We can dab each other.
I can't not give you.
It's a dab-friendly show, right?
We can do this. It's definitely a dab-friendly show. That is Kazeem Famuyide. See, the name is not hard. You can say it. He didn't have to change his name. The name isn't that hard at all. Check out all his work on all the platforms he's with. The sports betting content, a lot of great things. You see him contributing here, sometimes in this studio on SNY. We'll catch you guys next week on the New York Sports Rapid Rundown.